That's the thing, because you can get excited all you want about the A-League, and I want to get excited about the A-League. I love the league so much. I love the players. I love football, and there's football in Australia, so why wouldn't I love that, right? But it just seems that all the positive energy, all the good stuff that is going to happen, is just a means to an end of 5,000 people rocking up to the most prestigious game in the country. Are they in that position? Are they in that position where if they don't win the league, it can be considered a choke and a bottle? I don't know. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footer Tackle podcast. I think it's episode 17 of season 2. It is. So a little bit confusing because this is returning. We're returning back to season 2 after the World Cup hiatus. So So we had 24 episodes of the World Cup, of World Cup podcast, which I've not included in season 2. Otherwise, season 2 would be 50 episodes long. So we separated the World Cup. That was 24 episodes long, and we're back now with season 2. We're resuming season 2 of club football, I should say, with episode 17. Had a slight little hiatus over the Christmas and New Year period. Is currently Monday, January the 2nd. At the time of recording, so I hope everyone had a hope everyone had a Merry Christmas for those who celebrate, and of course, hope everyone has a fantastic New Year. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a fantastic holiday period. I think the period late December to the New Year is a good period for everyone. Period of reflection, period of celebration. So I hope everyone had a great time, indulged in certain activities that involved may or may not have involved alcohol for me, but no, it was good. It was a good break, well needed break, especially on my end for this whole podcast stuff. Going something like 24 days, or technically, because we had the 2 emergency podcasts in there, it was something along the lines of 27, maybe 26 podcasts across 20 or across like 30 days. For someone who, for someone who loves sleep as much as I do, and is doing this all by myself, like doing all the recording, graphics, uploading, social scheduling, everything as well. So it was a pretty intense month, but I wouldn't change for the world. It was a fantastic month. 2 emergency podcast episodes, which I didn't think I'd be doing, but I did do them regardless. But we powered through. We powered through, and now we're here again for season 2. So had a maybe, what was it, 12 days off? I think it was, maybe something like that. 12, something along those lines. 12 days off, 10 days off. Back again, gonna power through the back end of the footballing year. I say back end. There is still more than half the season left to go. I'm 90% sure. I think we've only played, if we're looking at it from a Premier League perspective, we've only played 16 games, 16 games. So we've still got 22 games left to play for some teams, 21 games to play for some other teams. So yeah, there's a lot of things could happen in the back end of this year. And it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, we're going to crack on. I thank you all for the support on all the World Cup stuff. I appreciate it highly. If you have joined from the World Cup, kind of podcast era, if you want to call it that, and you're coming across for the club content, thank you for coming across. Thank you for the support. These podcasts will be out every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, or / standard time, Melbourne time, put it that way. So I don't know what that is over in the UK, US. I'm not quite sure. Google exists, with all due, just Google it. Come on, it's not hard. But yeah, that's when this will be out every week. Potentially some emergency podcasts in there as well, if I see fit. Obviously, I didn't see fit for the first year of this podcast, so we'll see if I need to do any of those. But yeah, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time every week. Tuesday 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, as we're coming up to the year anniversary of the podcast. I think the year anniversary of the podcast is the 7th. So I think that is maybe the second or the fifth, something along those lines. So we're practically hit a year, but once the full anniversary comes, I'll probably do a tweet about it. So yeah, follow the socials. TFTPod Tackle Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. 2FTPod on as in the number 2FTPod on Twitter, and then of course all the audio platforms, the whole nine yards. Really, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And then there's a Linktree link in the Twitter and Instagram bios for all the relative content and all the necessary content. Okay, let's crack on. Let's speak about some football because I'm pumped. Now, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, we're going to be going through my 2023 football predictions. I've got 7 predictions down. 7? Yeah, 7 predictions down about what I think will happen in the footballing year. Now, this is not what I think will happen necessarily, because some of these are a little bit outlandish. Not necessarily what I want to happen either. Just things that could happen, and I think would be quite interesting if they did, and would provide for some big talking points. So put it that way, we're gonna do that. But before we do that, my first talking point is going to be about Arsenal, because don't want to speak about them for a bit, and then we're going to speak about the A-League. Just a whole bunch of A-League to speak about. Games, off-field drama that doesn't involve derbies, the fallout from the derby, which I want to speak about, and then we're going to go into who went into footed as that returns as the only segment on this podcast. But yes, let's crack on. Let's start things off with Arsenal. Now, when I was returning to this kind of style of podcast, as I style, like when I was turning to the weekly podcast speaking about club football, I didn't really know what angle to kick things off with, because I could do January transfer window signings. I'll probably do that next week, to be honest. I could do, like I said, I'm doing the football predictions for 2023, so we're going to touch on that. But I was just looking at teams, was looking at players, and was like, where can I go? Where can I really go from here? Of course, when we returned to football, there's been two like blocks of fixtures. When we're looking at the Premier League, of course, there was the Boxing Day fixtures, and then of course there was the New Year's fixtures, which has just ended this morning with Chelsea drawing 1-1 to Forest, which is just the greatest thing in the world, isn't it? So you have all of that. Actually, I say that it actually ends tomorrow with Brentford versus Liverpool. But as a Chelsea supporter, anyway, that's not the point. So I was looking at this block of 2 fixtures, which I knew I would have to kind of speak about. Heading into the thing, or heading into this first podcast back, and I was looking at teams. I was like, could I speak about Liverpool? But it's not really, like, it's kind of been over. I've kind of beaten that horse to death, in a sense. Could speak about United, but I think once again, I think that's pretty talked about. Could speak about City, but they're boring. Could speak about Chelsea, but it will just end up turning into an hour-long rant about how much his club has caused me pain. Could speak about Newcastle, which I think I might do a little bit. I might do in the weeks to come if they continue their form. And then that, of course, left me with the team sitting at the top of the table, and the team sitting at the top of the league in a very, very comfortable position, and that, of course, is Arsenal. Now, where do we start with Arsenal? I feel like the best way to start with Arsenal is looking at them pre-season. And pre-season, I had them 5th in my pre-season predictions. I'm pretty sure. I had them 5th or 4th. I'm not quite sure. I had them floating around. That area. And the reason, and that wasn't me taking a dig at Arsenal. That was me actually thinking that they were going to improve. Now, the reason I put them in that position, whilst also giving them credit, is because I look at a couple of things. Firstly, I was still quite unsure about Mikel Arteta. I was still unsure. I in terms of, I always knew his potential, and I've kind of had this belief and this opinion of him, is that if he reaches his full potential, he could be one of the best managers in the world. I was just worried about where his floor was. I was worried about where his base level was. When things weren't going his way, when he was underperforming, what was his level? That's what I was looking at. So that's why I was a little bit unsure about him. I was unsure about the depth in the squad. Of course, that concern still remains. And I was unsure about whether or not this was the season where they take the leap. They start the season off like a house on fire, funnily enough, which I've done actually. There's a clip on the YouTube channel about this, and I've spoken about this on previous podcasts or on a previous podcast earlier on in the season. The All or Nothing documentary came out. I watched that in its entirety, and that improved my opinion on Mikel Arteta tenfold. I now like that kind of improved my initial opinion, and this first half of the season has taken that to the stratosphere in terms of my opinion on him. I think he's like Mikel Arteta has the ability to be the best manager in the world, in my opinion. He's just so good, but good in different ways because he's tactically good. I shouldn't say different ways. He's good in almost every way because he's tactically very good. You see that he takes that from Pep. Even when he played, he did have this aura about him being like, yeah, he's going to be a very good coach even when he played. And you can tell tactically he's so spot on. And something that he's improved over time and something which I'm sure you learned under Pep and has learned in his first couple of seasons managing at Arsenal is his man management skills have improved tenfold. You look at the difference between when he first got the job and when he's now got and what he's doing now. The way the players are playing for him, the way he presents himself, his aura, and his just confidence on the touchline, his ability to know what to do with certain players, to me is exceptional. I mean, we saw what he did to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. A lot of people at the time were like, "What are you doing, mate? You cannot be doing this to your best player." All of a sudden, 12 months later, pretty much, look where both players are. Look where both parties are now. Arsenal flying at the top of the league. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang struggling at Chelsea. Big time. So, 12 months apart, something like that. So, that is something which I was kind of looking towards heading into the season is Mikel Arteta, but I think he's ticked my box here. Like, that's Billy. Bit of an inventor there, but he's that box for me has been ticked in terms of Arteta. I look at the depth in the squad. That, of course, is a little bit of an issue. We've seen, of course, Jesus has gone down and Nketiah has stepped up. I think that is okay. I think that's fine. You can get away with that. I think you could potentially get away with an injury in defence. I think you could potentially even in that front line, I think in that three behind Nketiah, I think you could get away with an injury there. Where you can't get away with is an injury in midfield. I think all Arsenal fans know that. But regardless, the depth is potentially my only issue with them. But apart from that, why can't they win the league? They seriously and this pains me to say as a Chelsea supporter. It's weird because as a Chelsea supporter, I despise Arsenal, right? Naturally. But I can't help but look at them and think, fuck, something special is going on here. And it's not only on the pitch. Obviously, I've never been to the Emirates, right? But obviously, they have the reports on the Emirates being like this commercialized fishbowl stadium, no atmosphere, the library, all this stuff, right? Well, that was more about Highbury, right? But they had this whole this stereotype around the Emirates being this kind of library, and now you see those fans behind the goal, the clock end. I think that's what they call themselves. To me, I love that. I really do love that. As long as they're not being dickheads, which I know is a very, very big caveat, but as long as they're being just supporting the team respectfully in terms of respecting the law, and are doing it passionately and are doing it partisanly, I think it's great. I don't think it's cringe at all. I think it's great. I think it's very good because you can tell it's having an impact on the pitch. You can tell it's having an impact on the pitch because they're providing the atmosphere, and then everyone around them is thinking, fuck yeah, let's get around this, and all of a sudden the Emirates has become a fortress. I don't know what their record is at home. This season. Of course, I know that the one game they lost was away from home. They're unbeaten at home. They actually won every single game at home this season. 7 games played, 7 wins, 22 goals scored, 8 conceded at home. And I think that has to go down to what this kind of aura around the Emirates is kind of cultivating. I think it's great. I actually think it's really, really good. And like I said, the Chelsea supporter in me is kind of like piss off. I just stop being good. But the football fan in me and the fan in me that loves stories and loves passion and loves these kind of deeper and just loves stories. I feel like I can't really describe it in other ways apart from just stories. I am There's something in me that is kind of enjoying this. Is it because I don't want to see City win the league again? Probably. Is it because Chelsea aren't going to win the league, so I don't really care who it is as long as it isn't City? Yeah, maybe. But like, I mean, when we look at that squad, let's look at the team that played against Brighton, right? They had Ramsdale in goal, who was picked up so shrewdly. I know it was for pretty big money, but no one wanted him. They had the English tax as well, Premier League tax, right? So no one wanted him, and he's turned out to be one of the better keepers in the league. Ben White at right back, I know obviously he had a massive price tag on him, but I think he's delivered to expectation. Saliba and Gabriel, two very, very shrewd signings. I don't know how much I got Gabriel for, but it couldn't have been much. It couldn't have been much if Fotmob's going to tell me. I don't think it is, but it couldn't have been much for Gabriel. We all know Saliba has had this kind of tumultuous time at Arsenal prior to this season, but he's exploded onto the scene to be one of the Premier League's best centre-backs. Zinchenko, a left-back, another shrewd signing, taking him off what has come to be a title rival, which is quite funny, and has just improved the composure around the team so well. Odegaard, I think is fantastic business. Xhaka has turned his career around. Credit to Mikel Arteta for that. Thomas Partey has been a rock in defensive midfield. He is one of those players that they needed to keep fit, and he has kept fit, and he's been very, very good. Martinelli, cheap as chips, has turned out to be one of the better wingers in the league. Saka, academy player, you love to see it, coming through the ranks to be, once again, one of the best wingers in the league. And then you have Eddie Nketiah, who has been a player that has been not shunned from Arsenal, but has been kind of, you're like third string. But he came in towards the back end of last season, did an okay job, came in, scored on the weekend against Brighton, scored in the most recent game against Brighton. Just another player that has come in and he's just doing his role. When we look at the subs, Tierney, another great business decision. Tomiyasu, great. El Neni, I mean, I love Mohamed El Neni. Like, just one of those players that will step in not 10 out of 10. Will just step in 6.5 out of 10 every single game. Will very rarely drop in a stinker. Will very rarely put a 9 out of 10 performance. But comes in, does his job, does his role. No fuss, no glitz and glamour about it. Just does his role, and that is what title-winning sides have. Title-winning sides have just players that do their role, no fuss, bang. You don't need 11 superstars. You need players that can play as a team and create a superstar team. And Mohamed El Neni is a player that can cultivate that and can add to that. You have even the likes of, on the bench you have Lokonga, Vieira, Marquinhos, three players who will be part of this next generation of Arsenal players to kind of carry this mantle forward in hopefully with Mikel Arteta if he decides to stay. There's something about this Arsenal team. There is something about this Arsenal team that is screaming they can definitely win the league. Definitely win the league. Tactically spot on. There's this momentum about them that has just kept going and doesn't look like it's going to stop. Injuries to this point have been pretty good for them, so knock on wood if you're an Arsenal fan that stays the same. But I mean, it would be a great story in my opinion. Because, like I said, even as a Chelsea supporter, I feel like the football fan in me is taking over. I would rather have an exciting, competitive league with potentially one of my rivals winning the league than City winning the league. I don't really care that much about City. Than City winning the league by 20 points every season. Maybe that's not because maybe that's because I don't maybe not understand the rivalry, but maybe that's because I'm looking at it from a slightly external perspective, living pretty much directly opposite in terms of the world, right? But I'm sure if Spurs were in this position, I'm sure Spurs fans wouldn't agree with me at all, right? But I don't know. I feel like this is good for football. I feel like it is good for football because Yeah, they've spent. Yeah, Arsenal have spent. They have spent a lot of money. You can't deny that, right? But who doesn't spend money these days, right? Like, how much money did Nottingham Forest spend when they came up? Like, who doesn't spend money? I feel like the money argument now, to me, unless teams are dropping 200 mil on 4 players, like in terms of 200 mil each on 4 players, there's no such thing as buying the league anymore. There's no such thing because everyone buys the league. So once again, unless you're being extremely like I said, it's 200 mil on 4 players, for example, right? Unless you're doing that type of spending, if you're spending 200 mil a transfer window, 150 mil a transfer window, that's par for the course these days, isn't it? That's par for the course. Bringing 4 players for 30 mil each, that's 120 mil on 4 players. That's par for the course, no? Right? So you can't really use that excuse of, they bought the league. Ben White, Ramsdale, Odegaard, Partey. Like, yeah, everyone buys the league, mate. Like, everyone buys the league. And I'd rather teams spend a lot of money and take risks. Like, Ben White was a risk. Aaron Ramsdale was a risk. And I'm glad they've worked out. I'm glad that if anyone's going to win the league, it's a team that has taken those risks. Martin Odegaard was a risk, in my opinion. He's worked out, right? So, I mean, you can take a look at risks. Keeping Granit Xhaka was a risk, and it's worked out, right? So this team is made full of risks. There was very little safeness about this team, about this Arsenal team, and that's what makes me slightly more, like, I don't know, nice in a way, but like slightly more empathetic in a way towards them, because it's not like they've just gone out and bought the best player in the world in every position where it can't fail, right? Where unless I'm managing them, right, it can't fail, right? They've gone out and they've taken risks. Some have worked out, like William Saliba's worked out, like Tomiyasu has worked out, Aaron Ramsdale has worked out so far anyway, and some of them haven't worked out. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure Arsenal fans could pinpoint to a couple of signings they've made in the last 5 years and say, yeah, that hasn't worked out. And they've been patient with Arteta, which is something that I'm glad that they've done, because it shows a lot of teams that just because it isn't working in the first 2 seasons, the thing is with football is that it's next year. If you fail 1 year, you can go again the next. If you fail 1 year, you can go again the next. So it's about being patient, it's about being resilient, and it's about having an idea and backing that idea until it. I would rather, and this is why, once again, why I'm praising Arsenal, is because they've had this idea, they've had this project, and they've stuck by it. Even in times where it potentially hasn't worked out and Arteta could have been sacked, they've stuck by him and they've been, no, he's our guy. We're going to stick with him. We're going to stick by this project, and we're going to trust the process. As a Chelsea supporter, that's why I want Graham Potter to stay, because you need to trust the process, because football doesn't happen like that. Very rarely does football happen like that overnight. You need to build teams. You need to build cultures to create long-term success. Yeah, I mean, you can point to things happening overnight like that. Leicester is one of them, right? Where they turned it around like that because everything worked for them. Obviously, it's in a different way, but was that long-term success? No. What happened the next season? They were battling relegation, right? You look at Liverpool. Klopp could have easily gotten sacked in his first couple of seasons. But no, they trust the process, they trust him, they gave him the funds, and they gave him time to build a culture. And bang, he's had a dynasty of success, which really should have had a lot more trophies than it does, but Man City are in the way of that. It's the same thing with Man City. Pep's first season was a failure, but they gave him time, they gave him funds to build culture. Same with Arteta. First couple of seasons were a failure, but now they've given him the time, they've given him the funds, and they've given him the confidence in terms of their backing. The board has given him their backing, which gives him the confidence to just coach and to just manage without any external pressures, without any external noise, without thinking that he has to change what he has to do to kind of suit narratives or whatever. He's just been given the license to manage, to coach. And definitely coach of the season, probably. I can't think of anyone else. Coach of the season so far anyway. And they're... How many games left do they have? 21? 22 games left. They've got 22 games left. Why can't they win the league? They're 14 games won, one draw, one loss. Their one loss came away at Man United, and they drew at home. They drew away to Southampton. Like they can so easily do it. So easily do it. Yeah. They can so easily do it. So it was going to be interesting to see whether or not, and this goes back to what I was saying before. This goes back to what I was saying in terms of the reason why I brought those two things up in terms of Arteta, the Arteta's flaw and the depth in the squad is because they're the only two pitfalls for me. Because I think the talent of the first 11, everyone fit. I think the talent is good. I think the talent's great. So I like in terms of that goes to the manager as well. When everyone is at their best, the talent's there to win the league. Talent is there to win the league, right? Especially in the current climate of the Premier League, right? So you have that, right? And now you also have so that is why I said okay. Plan A. Plan A is great. When everything's working, it's great. Plan B. Plan B includes what happens if Arteta doesn't get it right and goes through a period where he doesn't make the correct decisions tactically in terms of player instructions, doesn't make the correct decisions. What is his base level? That's obviously a concern, and the depth, of course. The squad depth, of course, is a concern because Thomas Partey or Granit Xhaka get injured. I can't see it. But they have stayed fit. And I know it's January, so I'd assume a midfield reinforcement has to be in the pipeline. Has to be. Because you're going to put what? Lokonga is your next player, maybe dropping Odegaard slightly deeper and moving Vieira into that 10 role. El Neni, of course, but do you back El Neni to play 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row where he has to play well? Like I said, I really like Mohamed El Neni, but off the bench, cup games, sporadic starts here and there to just come in, fill a job for 2-3 games, I think he's good. If Thomas Partey goes down for 4 weeks, those 4 weeks you're probably going to play 6 games. Do you back El Neni to put out 7 out of 10 performances like he's going to need to in that position? I don't know. Do you back Lokonga to do that? I don't know. That's why you need to bring even someone on loan who will come in and for 6 months give you that quality. Give you that quality for 6 months and will get you over the line should any injuries happen. But no, I'm really bullish on Arsenal. Really bullish on Arsenal. And yeah, as a Chelsea supporter, it hurts to say, but they can so easily do something very, very special this season. Very, very special. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? It's going to be really interesting because that's what was quite funny about this, actually. Something quite funny happened, right? So on New Year's Eve, I was chatting to a mate of mine who was an Arsenal supporter, and I was like, Arsenal, you guys are gonna have to be on it. This is what I said to him. I was like, you guys are gonna have to be on it. From like, you can't drop any points. Like you can't lose to Palace away, for example. Like you can't afford those type of losses, or to Wolves at home to get a draw. You need to win those games, those type of games. Because my reasoning behind that was because City aren't going to drop points. City are probably going to drop maybe 5 points from there for the rest of the season, in my opinion. And then I would say about 7 hours later, Damari Gray bangs one in the top corner and City drop points, which is quite funny. So maybe the league isn't as maybe Arsenal aren't under as much pressure as what I thought. Maybe they can get away with dropping a couple of points because City aren't going to be at the races. And of course, it's pretty much between them two. You've got Newcastle, you've got Newcastle, which is pretty. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it was silent there, but Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle only 2 points behind City, which is actually pretty mental to think about. And then you got United as well, but no, I don't think Newcastle will win the league. Let's be honest. If we're, I don't think Newcastle will be I don't think Newcastle will be competing for the league anytime soon. Put it that way. Okay, let's not anytime soon. Like in terms of this season, I just think it's too early for them. Yeah, too early for them to compete for the league this season. Although Champions League definitely within the realms of possibility. And I mean, I spoke about speaking of like in terms of people being in a position. Is it Arsenal's league to lose? I've praised them all this time, but if Arsenal don't win the league, is it a bottle job? Are they in that position? Are they in that position where if they don't win the league, it can be considered a choke and a bottle? I don't know. Maybe if they maintain this 6, 7, 8, 9 point lead up until maybe March, potentially. But I do think if they don't win the league from here, you can't consider it a bottle job, put it that way, because of how good City are as well. Yeah, I think that's it on Arsenal. Okay, let's move on to the second talking point, and that is my 2023 football predictions. Here we go, 2023 football predictions. Now, yeah, I've got 7 predictions down about what could happen if I can just bring it up on my phone, so I don't have to quickly change between OBS and Google Docs. Here we go. Okay, I've got 7 football predictions down that I think could happen within the 2023 calendar year. I'm not saying these are going to happen. I'm not saying I want these to happen, but these could happen, and will be very interesting talking points if they do happen. So I've got 7 down. Some are A-League based, some are world based. Should I start with, because I've got two A-League ones. So if you're an overseas viewer, I've got 2 A-League ones. So should I leave those to last, or should I smash them out early? I'll leave the 2 A-League ones to last. I'll leave the 2 A-League ones to last because if you watch the A-League, you probably watch the Prem, so you can, or you probably watch other football, right? Whereas if you watch other football, you don't necessarily watch the A-League. Hence why, if you watch both of them, you can go all the way through. Anyway, so let's go prediction number 1. Let's go prediction number 1. Okay, here we go. Prediction number 1. A European Super League type thing will be re-proposed by Real Madrid CEO or Real Madrid president Florentino Perez. Now, of course, European Super League happened in 2021, which almost broke football as we know it. And this kind of ties back into my last prediction, or my 5th prediction. Not the same, but quite similar. I just think he's going to stand up on some Spanish TV show, whatever, and he's going to say, yep, we're going to do this thing, European Super League. It's going to be 8 teams. It's going to be Real Madrid, Barcelona, and 6 other teams. They're going to play. They're going to play for a calendar. They're going to play between fucking March and November, and that's going to be the season. They're just going to play each other in a round robin 8 times in a row, right? Home and away, home and away, home and away. And then, or not 8 times in a row, but they're just going to play those 7 other teams from March to November, and then the winner of the league wins the trophy, and there's no relegation, nothing. Some bullshit like that, because he thinks that's good for the sport. Florentino, mate, if you're watching, firstly, subscribe. Secondly, it's not good for the sport, champion. So just stop. Just stop. I just think he's going to do it. I genuinely think he's just going to do it again, because he actually has, like, a couple of screws loose, I'm convinced. But granted, if you're that successful, you have to, right? So I don't necessarily blame him for that. But yeah, that's my first prediction. A European Super League type thing will be re-proposed by Florentino Perez. I'm not saying introduced. I'm saying proposed. And it might get as hectic as what it did as what it... Actually, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't, because clubs won't do it. No chance. Clubs won't do it. Clubs... can I just say, speaking on this topic, I don't think it will ever happen again. Like, in terms of an actual... I think Florentino can propose it all he wants, but there is no chance in hell that the European Super League type thing will ever happen in football. It won't. It won't, because it won't. The backlash was too great. And unless, for whatever reason, it gets ticked off by supporter groups and gets ticked off by season ticket holders for respective clubs, firstly, like, I don't think that'll ever happen, right? That will never happen. But let's just say, for whatever reason it does, that's the only way that it will ever happen. Because, I mean, Bundesliga clubs can't do it. Because 50+1, unless you're RB Leipzig, then you probably can get away with it. Or get away with it. Could probably do it. I don't think Prem clubs wouldn't do it. The Premier League is too valuable to Premier League clubs. The prize money and the TV rights money is too valuable. So like, Prem clubs won't do it. I don't think Italian clubs will do it. The only teams I could really see doing it, and I don't think French clubs will do it either, because apart from PSG don't need money. beIN Sport have ridiculous TV rights for them anyway. So I can really only see it being Spanish clubs, and by Spanish clubs I mean Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're the only two clubs I can see actually agreeing to this, which is quite funny because of who I think will re-propose it, and who was the main head of the operations and was the chief person behind everything the first time around. It's quite interesting though. I do think the saga that happened in 2021 with it will be very, very... There's going to be a documentary made about that someday, if there isn't already, and like a proper in-depth documentary, doco series even, about it. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. Also, did anyone watch that FIFA documentary on Netflix? I was actually going to do a podcast about it, but I was like, no, I just want to enjoy it. I don't want to kind of take notes as I'm watching it. But that was fascinating. That I urge anyone watching to watch the FIFA documentary on Netflix. It's engrossing viewing. It's very interesting. Anyway, that was prediction 1. European Super League will be re-proposed by Florentino Perez. Prediction 2. After Saudi Arabian flop, Ronaldo ends the year as a free agent. That's a big one, isn't it? I think Ronaldo, and this ties into speaking about Ronaldo, which is something that I wanted to do. But yeah, after he flops in Saudi Arabia, Ronaldo will end the year as a free agent. Now, this is kind of a bit of an excuse to speak about Ronaldo, but I do genuinely think that this could happen. Now, of course, Ronaldo has confirmed a deal with Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. Firstly, okay, where do we start here? I'm actually shocked. Like, I'm genuinely so surprised that this has happened. Like, so surprised. Because Ronaldo's never been about money. He's always been about legacy. He's always been about, I'm the best, then I'm better than everyone. I'm the best footballer to ever live, and I'm going to prove that. Surely he would want to stay at a European club, right? Surely. Unless, and this is something which kind of ties into why I think he'll be a free agent. Unless no European club wants him, which I struggle to believe in some respect. But who would want him? Like we've seen, he isn't, unless he goes to Italy again, which I don't think he will. Where does he go? He won't go to the Bundesliga. I don't think it's the Bundesliga's too frantic for him. Won't go to France because unless Mbappe leaves, PSG will be the only club to be able to afford him. And I don't think PSG will get him unless Mbappe leaves. Won't go back to the Prem. Won't go back to La Liga. So where does he go? Do you think he will subject himself to going back to Portugal, going back to Sporting, going to Ajax, PSV, going to, can they even afford him? Going to the, I don't know, the Serbian league, the Croatian league. Do you think people will be able to kind of? Do you think that's even a level? Like, that's why I think legacy tarnished for me. Legacy tarnished for me. Because the reason why I say legacy tarnished is because this move goes against everything that he has said and everything that he's perpetuated over his entire career. His entire career has been about trophies, it's been about legacy, it's been about goals, records, Champions Leagues, European records, Premier League records, Serie A, La Liga records. So why are you going chasing £200 million a year in Saudi Arabia? When if he had come out and said from the start of his career, yeah, I'm gonna do this football thing to earn as much money as possible, then I'd be like, yeah, this is fair enough, this move. But his entire career has been about saying, I'm the best, I'm better than everyone. You're not going to prove that by going to Saudi Arabia. In fact, going to Saudi Arabia actually hinders that idea of you being the best, because the best don't play in Saudi Arabia. The best play at the top leagues. So this is why I think this move hinders his legacy tenfold. And this is why I think he can't be considered the greatest of all time anymore. If you did. I don't think he can. I think you can prefer him. I had this conversation the other day. You can prefer him because football's subjective, right? It's about preference. I prefer Messi partly because I'm similar stature to him, right? I'm closer to Messi than I am Ronaldo. So it kind of works. But you can prefer Ronaldo as a player, that's great. Football's subjective, Ronaldo's a great player. But if you want to look at it objectively, and if you want to look at the facts, can you justify it? Can you justify this move when you speak about what his legacy is and what his legacy or what he's perpetuated his whole football career to be about, which is about trophies, goals, records. It's not been about money, because if it was about money, he would have been in the MLS 4 seasons ago. He would have been in China 4 years ago. He would have been in Saudi Arabia 3 years ago. Like, if his career was about money, he would have been out of the, like, if Ronaldo's career was about money, he would have been out of Europe a long time ago. A long, long time ago. But it's not. It's not about money. It's about records. It's about trophies. It's about Ballon d'Ors. It's about being the best. But now he realised, oh, I'm not the best anymore. No top European club wants me. So I'm going to go chase 200 million in Saudi Arabia and just say that, oh yeah, I'm sorting my family out for life or whatever. Bro, you've got fucking billions of dollars anyway, man. Like, you've got billions of dollars anyway. What's 200 mil going to make a difference, man? Like, it's a shame because I'm annoyed because I want to see the best play at the best level. I want to see. That's why I love the elite. Like, this is the whole reason why I wanted a Messi vs Ronaldo World Cup final, was because I love the elite. I love the elite playing in the most prestigious games, playing in the most prestigious tournaments, getting all the records, playing in the most high-profile, most meaningful games. We're not going to see that anymore, which is a shame, which is a massive shame. Because even the story of Ronaldo winning a trophy at United, that's a cool story in itself. What's he going to do in Saudi Arabia apart from earn 200 mil, which to him is probably back pocket change? I don't know. That's why I just think this is a good transition to speaking about Ronaldo. But yeah, anyway, the prediction: he will flop in Saudi Arabia, and he'll end the year as a free agent. Maybe not the year, but by the end of the January transfer window in 2023, or by the end of the January transfer window in 2024, Ronaldo will be a free agent. Yeah. By flop. Also, this is a good question. What should Ronaldo achieve? What's his benchmark? I don't know how many games do they play. I don't know how many games they play in Saudi Arabia. Let me quickly check. But like, what's his benchmark? What, 30 goals? 30 goals? That has to be right. That has to be the benchmark, at least in the league. How many games do Al Nassr play? Okay, so their season's actually ongoing. So do you reckon he'll play? The next game's on Friday the 6th, Australian time at 2 a.m. Australian time. Do you reckon he'll play? How many games do they play? So, funnily enough, Al Nassr are top of the league, so that's quite that's quite funny. Pro League. How many games do they play? They play 30 games. They play 30 league games. Al Nassr have already played 11, so they've got 19 games to go. Let's just assume Ronaldo plays his most recent game, or the next most recent game. Al Nassr versus Al Tay. I can't believe I'm speaking about Saudi Arabian football on this podcast. How many goals? 19 games. How many goals should he score? What, 20? 20, 21, what, 18, 17 goals from 19 games? If he doesn't win the league, is that a failure? If he doesn't win the league, is that a failure? If he doesn't score more than 15 goals in 19 games, is that a failure? I don't know. They've also got cup games in between. I can't believe I'm going to be... Should we do a Ronaldo watch? Let's do Ronaldo watch on this podcast every week. We're going to catch up on what CR7's doing in Saudi Arabia and just observe the mental, just utterly insane season that's going to be the back end of this season. Anyway, that's quite funny. We'll do Ronaldo watch if I remember, or remind me for those listening. Tweet at me or leave it in the comments below. Let's do Ronaldo watch for the season, for the rest of the season, and see what he's up to. All right, let's move on. Come on. It's prediction number 3. Okay, this is one that I actually would welcome. This is one that I want to happen. World Cup style of stoppage time will be a permanent fixture in elite football by year's end. And by elite football, I mean top level professional football. I think this is good. I think this is something that needs to happen. Maybe not. I don't really want to see the 11-minute stoppage time bullshit, like 13-minute stoppage time. But if a player's down, if a player goes down in the 85th minute when they're 2-1 up, and he goes down for 4 minutes, I want to see at least 4 minutes added on. I want to see 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes added on because of that, right? I'm not saying because of those 4 minutes, 7 minutes must be added on, but those 4 minutes where he's down must be added on. Those 4 minutes at least must be added on. Make them more realistic and make time, because firstly it will stop time wasting. So what will actually happen, right? What will actually happen is that over the long term, it will balance itself out, because you will have your natural stoppages in play through subs, goal celebrations, actual injuries to players, not wasting time, actual injuries. You will have those, VAR checks as well. You will have those natural stoppages of play, but it will balance itself out, because initially you'll have these 11, 12, 13 minutes of stoppage time because people are still trying to waste time. Whereas as people stop wasting time because they know, if I waste time, it's going to be added on anyway, it'll slowly creep down to 4, 5, 6 minutes, because people will stop wasting time because they know, if I waste time, they're going to be added on anyway. So let's just get on with it. So eventually time wasting will be almost stopped. So then it will just go back to the natural stoppages in play with VAR checks, injuries, goals, subs, which will end up being 4 to 5 minutes anyway, which is what most games end with now. So I think it will actually be good. I think it's a good way to stop time wasting. I don't think you should stop time wasting entirely. I think gamesmanship is important to a certain extent, but yeah, I think it'll balance itself out. So yeah, my third prediction: World Cup style of stoppage time will be a permanent fixture in football by year's end. Similarly to how 5 subs were quickly adopted by most professional leagues. World Cup style of stoppage time will be a permanent fixture. Okay, let's go to the final non-A League one, and my fourth prediction. Sorry. Wait, how many? Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh yes, I've got 2 more. Okay. The fourth prediction. Wait, one, yeah, fourth prediction. Fourth prediction. And my second last non-A League one is that Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland will not be at their respective clubs by the end of the year. Or should I caveat by the end of the January transfer window in 2024? That is my prediction. It's big, I know. I think Mbappe is all but gone. And Haaland, whatever you want to say. Yeah, I think he's going to go. I think Real Madrid are going to come calling. I think PSG are going to come calling. I think a team like that are going to come calling with $65 billion a week. And he's going to be like, yeah, I can't turn this down, sorry lads. Which is a shame because I want to see him in the Prem. Ideally, I want to see Mbappe come to the Prem as well. I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, I think that will be it. I think Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe will not be at their respective clubs by the end of the year, which is a pretty big prediction considering how massive Mbappe and Haaland have been for their clubs so far this season. But yeah, both of them will not be at their respective clubs, and at least here we go. Here's another one. At least one of them will play at the other person's club at some stage. This like in the same time frame. Will be at another person, at one of the other person's clubs. So either Mbappe will go to City or Haaland will go to PSG. That's what will happen. Okay, let's go to the last prediction and probably the most bold prediction of the lot. And this is something which I don't want to happen. I don't want this to happen, but I just think it will, which makes it even worse, I think. Okay, here we go. My last non-A-League prediction is that a radical change to the way football is played will be proposed and semi-introduced via friendly games. However, after mass fan backlash and stadium walkouts and riots, this will eventually lead to the resignation of Gianni Infantino and other high-ranking FIFA officials. Now, by radical change to the way football is played, I'm not talking about Super League type thing. I'm talking 30-minute halves, no draws, 30-minute halves, no draws, a stop clock, like stuff like this. I'm talking a radical change to the fundamentals of football. That's what I think will happen. A radical change to the way football is played will be proposed and then soft introduced via friendlies. However, after mass fan backlash, will eventually lead to the resignation of Infantino and other high-ranking FIFA officials. So, like I said, I'm talking about 30-minute halves. I'm talking about no draws. I'm talking about stuff like this. But after backlash from fans, I'm not talking about kick-ins instead of throw-ins, which is almost the same thing. I'm talking 30-minute halves or no draws in league games, all games go to overtime, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, that's one of them, and something which I really don't want to happen. But it's something that I do think will happen because, of course, we all know Florentino Perez and these other high-ranking people within football, Infantino as well. Think they know more than anyone else. I think that they're. I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is. It's people wanting power. So, people are so power hungry that they want to leave their mark on the sport. They want to leave their imprint on the sport. So you can do whatever you can do whatever you want, and you can you can make as many stuff as you want, and in terms of as a president of FIFA or as a president of anything, you can do whatever you want, right? But if you're not remembered for something, what's the point, right? What's the point? So that's what I think these people were going to be. They're going to be no, wait, in my time as president, this was introduced, this happened. So yeah, a radical change. I'm talking 30-minute halves. I'm talking no draws. Every game goes to an overtime. like 5 minutes each way overtime until a winner until a winner happens, which is ridiculous because it's not basketball. So yeah, that is my fifth prediction, and I've actually just remembered another prediction which I wanted to write down, which I didn't. Here's another prediction. Prediction number 6. I want to figure out how I'm going to word this. Due to fixture congestion and being overloaded with match time and with playing games, a very high-profile player will retire in his 20s. That's what I think will happen. So due to fixture congestion, due to overloads in terms of match, in terms of having to play Saturday, Tuesday, a player with a high-profile player in his 20s will retire early because of like chronic fatigue, or because of just his body being worn down because of these overloads in matches and in game time and all this stuff. A player will retire, and this is something which will cause here's another slight prediction, will cause a mass change in the way football's played. I think this will obviously comes off the back of what big Gianni has kind of done with the Club World Cup, just added more games to the football calendar, because that's what we need. We need more games. That's what we need. That's you know what, you ask any football player, any true football fan around the world what football needs, I guarantee you no one will say more games. I guarantee you no one will say more games. I'll put my house on it. No one will say more games. Who wants more? Like, no, we don't need more games of football. We've got enough. Like, we actually have. Like, I love football. I love it. Let's fucking do a podcast about it, right? We don't need more football. Like, please, we do not need more football. But once again, Gianni and his boys want to do whatever they want to do. So there you go. There's my prediction for that. Okay. Let's move to the two predictions for the A-League. Now, you probably will know what these predictions are. Well, two for the A-League. So you'll probably know what these two predictions are, or you have an idea about what they are. First prediction is that after grand final bust, Tourism New South Wales backflip on their decision to host the grand final for the next 3 years in New South Wales, and Paramount Plus pull out of their A-League rights deal on the eve of the new season. That's what I've got. That is something which probably is wishful thinking in looking at it from that perspective. Is probably wishful thinking, but that's what I genuinely think will happen. Genuinely, I think at least part of that will happen. Whether it's the Paramount pulling out or the Tourism New South Wales backflipping on their decision, I think something like that will happen. Or I think one of those two things will happen, because it's untenable. Both of them are untenable, in my opinion. Both of them are untenable. Paramount is untenable as a sports broadcaster. So, like, super untenable. I mean, they've been laughed out of the room in trying to get the cricket and trying to get the AFL. They've been laughed out of the room because of how poorly they've dealt with the A-League, how poorly they've dealt with it. So I think it's a matter of time before they're shipped out the door. And I cannot see a world, like, I mean, when we look at the A-League, right? You've got Western Sydney, who are doing okay, Macarthur, who are doing okay. You've got Melbourne City, who are top of the league. Central Coast are doing okay. Sydney are doing all right. Adelaide are doing all right. But apart from that, I can't really see anyone else making the grand final. You've got 4 New South Wales teams in there. You've got Macarthur, who have 4 people as a fan base. And unless it's a Western Sydney versus Sydney FC grand final, or even a Sydney FC versus even like a Central Coast, there's going to be under 10,000 people there for the grand final. It will probably be lower. I can guarantee you right now, if it's a Macarthur versus Melbourne City grand final, which is a very real possibility. Very real possibility. I can guarantee you under 5,000 people will go, because no neutral supporter is going to go to that game, and all the fans are gonna like backflip, or like all the fans are going to boycott that game. I should say, fans are already boycotting the finals. I've already said they're going to boycott finals, so I can't see how the decision sticks. And I think Paramount will pull out because of it. Anyway, that is that's the first prediction on that regard. Okay, let's go to the second A-League prediction, and that is, this is probably very, very easy to predict, but I've gone promotion and relegation will be announced in 2023 for the A-League, not implemented. So I'm not necessarily saying it will be implemented in 2023, but promotion and relegation will be announced in 2023, as well as a functional, in-depth, deep second division, potentially even a third division. National second division, national third division, obviously. This, of course, would have to come with mass funding from the federal government and the state governments as well. Promotion relegation is all but announced, I think. So that's a very easy tick, in my opinion. I can pretty much tick that off already. Promotion relegation almost already announced. Same with the second division. So I think this is very easy. This will be announced, I think. This will be announced. I just have to make sure. This will not be implemented. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be implemented in 2023. It will be announced in 2023. So yeah, I don't think that needs any more elaboration. Elaboration, that's a word, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think I need to elaborate anymore on those two. I think they pretty much speak for themselves. So yeah, just to recap. The European Super League will be re-proposed by Florentino Perez. Cristiano Ronaldo will flop in Saudi Arabia and will be a free agent by the end of the year. A World Cup style of stoppage time will be a permanent fixture in football by year's end. Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland will not be at their respective clubs come 2024. A high-profile player in his 20s will retire due to too many games and due to fatigue because of being overworked and being overrun. A radical change to the way football will be played. A radical change to the way football is played will be proposed by Gianni Infantino, a la 30-minute halves, no draws, etc., etc. However, due to fan backlash, it will eventually lead to the resignation of Gianni Infantino and other high-ranking FIFA officials. Promotion and relegation will be announced for the A-League in 2023, not necessarily implemented, as well as a functioning national second division and potentially a third division. And after the grand final bust, Tourism New South Wales pull out of their decision to host the next three A-League grand finals, and Paramount will pull out of their A-League rights deal. Bang. 8 predictions. I reckon if I go 50%, I'll be happy. If I go 50%, I'll be happy. What do I think? What I think is most likely? I think promotion relegation in the A-League is almost certain. I think that's almost certain. I think the European Super League reintroduced is almost certain. I think World Cup stoppage time will be a thing. And what's more likely to happen? A player retiring in the mid-20s, or a player retiring in the mid-20s, or Ronaldo finishing the year as a free agent? I'm going to go Ronaldo finishing the year as a free agent. They're the four. They're the four that I think. That's 3. They're the 4 that I think. They're the 4 that I think. They're the 4 I think will happen. So just to clarify, European Super League is 1. European Super League is 1. Promotion, relegation, World Cup stoppage time, and Ronaldo a free agent. They're the 4 predictions which if I had to put my house on it, I would do those 4, and they're the 4 that I think are more likely to happen. Okay, let's move on. Let's finish things up with speaking about the A-League ever so briefly, as my laptop's about to die. It's on 23%, so hopefully it doesn't die during this recording. Okay, let's speak about the A-League. Now, the fallout of the derby is so interesting. It's so interesting because of course, it was a pretty dark day for football in this country after what had happened in the derby, and obviously the fan walkouts are still happening. The protests are still happening. All the relevant people have been are aware or have been made aware to the authorities, which is all good by what I know, which is good. But it's actually kind of really weird what's happening with the A-League, because the A-League attendances are actually getting not bad numbers. Like, the A-League are getting not bad numbers. They're getting not bad numbers. They're getting 10k at some games, 9,000, 8,000 at some games. Granted, in the immediate aftermath, it wasn't that good in terms of the attendances. Of course, we saw what happened in Western United games and other games at Amy Park, which looked to have hundreds of people, let alone thousands, right? But this back end of the season is going to be the most important periods of Australian football potentially ever, because if crowds dwindle to practically being non-existent, if the grand final hosts 5,000 people or under, I can genuinely see the A-League not surviving to next season. Genuinely. I can see sponsors pulling out. I can see no funding being given to it. And I can see people just not caring. Because we're in a position now where it's almost like we need a fresh reset. And I think like I said, this back end of the season is going to be so important, because that's going to be what we build off. Is it going to be a revitalisation of the league? The league's going to rejuvenate in this new year. Something's going to happen to bring that spark of energy back. Attendances are going to start creeping back up. Games are going to start being good again. Like, there's going to be exciting games, exciting storylines. People might go to the grand final potentially. It's like, that's the thing, man, because you can get excited all you want about the A-League, and I want to get excited about the A-League. I love the league so much. I love the players. I love football, and there's football in Australia, so why wouldn't I love that, right? But it just seems that all the positive energy, all the good stuff that is going to happen is just a means to an end of 5,000 people rocking up to the most prestigious game in the country. So we can fight for it. We can do everything we want, but in order to truly make a change, we need the grand final we need the APL to be embarrassed about the grand final in order to really make our voices heard and to really stamp our authority on the league, which sucks because we put so much work throughout the year to get around it, to go to games, to support it, to speak about it, to promote it, to do everything about it, and to do everything to try help get it in the mainstream eyes, in the mainstream conscious, etc., etc. We do all that work throughout the year, but the best way and the most impactful way that we can help this sport is by embarrassing its most prestigious game. That's what hurts. That's what hurts the most. Because I can tell you right now, if Victory make the grand final, we probably won't. But if we manage to, I'm not going. I can guarantee so many people aren't going. They're going to boycott. The game, and it's going to suck. But it's going to be good for the long term, I think. But it's one of those things, isn't it? It's one of those things where I'm struggling to put energy behind it. I'm struggling. Like I said, I feel so apathetic about the league now. I feel so apathetic about it. It's like, oh, Victory lost. Who gives a shit? Oh, 3,000 people rocked up to a game. Who cares? But in the same vein, it's like, oh, 10,000 people rocked up to Central Coast. Oh, that's sick. Like, you try get around it and you try be optimistic about it, but then you remember, oh, Danny and his boys have fucked it for a lot of us. So it's like, I don't know. I think we're gonna have to wait and see what could happen. The decision's not gonna be backflipped. If it was gonna be backflipped, it would have happened by now. It's just one of those things where, yeah, it's just it sucks. It sucks, man. I'm gonna still speak about it. I don't know if I will. I still want to speak about the games because I love the games, I love the players, I love the league, but just so apathetic towards it at the moment, which sucks. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what can happen from it. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes of it. I don't know how. It's going to be interesting to see what the grand final will be, put it that way. Anyway, also another thing I want to speak about. Where's the All Access documentary? Where is it? Where's the All Access doco? It was the best thing about this league, honestly. The first 7, 8, 9 episodes of it were the best things. I literally look forward to it. 7:30 every Thursday. I was looking forward to it. Where is it? Just because you had one game, which doesn't toe the party line, where is it? You need to show us it. Or at least announce where it is. Where are the new episodes? Because I don't think, if I quickly just go on YouTube A League, all access, 2 weeks ago with Perth. So there wasn't one last week, and then there wasn't one for the last 2 weeks, and I don't know if there'll be one this week either. Anyways, does it really kind of matter in a sense? I mean, it does matter. No, it does fucking matter. Like, it does matter. But like, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you put like you had it. It was so good. And just because one game happens and it's a shit show, you still show it. Like, fuck. Still show it, or at least announce where they are. What happened to last week's episode? What happened to this week's? I don't think there'll be one this week. Like, come on, fuck, man. Like, anyway, let's move on. Let's finish things up with your When Footed. Now, for those who don't know what this segment is, basically the only segment on this podcast where I go through coach, player, staff, organisation, club, whatever that did something daft or something funny, basically that happened. And I've gone with Bournemouth for getting 9,000 people at their game, which is quite funny because I hear a lot of people speak shit about the A-League attendances, and yet Central Coast got more than Bournemouth, which is quite funny. That's the only reason why I find it funny, to be honest. But no, there you go. I know the stadium only holds like 13,000, whatever it is, but I don't know. It's quite funny to see Premier League grounds get into single digits, which is quite bizarre. Anyway, let's go through the preview. I know there's FA Cup on this weekend, so let's look at the preview. What do we have? Got some A-League tonight. Adelaide vs Perth. Brentford, Liverpool on tomorrow. Some Championship action, League One action, which are good midweek games. Any good Arsenal Newcastle will be great. That'll be a really good game to watch, really fun game to watch. Chelsea vs City. Can't wait to lose 8-0. That's pretty much it. FA Cup. United Everton, which is pretty cool. I forgot, Chelsea play Man City as well in the FA Cup a couple of days later, which is great. And then, we speak again after that. So, can't wait to come here in 7 days' time and City have beaten Chelsea 15-0 over 2 games. It's going to be great. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'm done. Thank you very much for watching another episode of 2 Foot Attacker Podcast. We're back again. We're hitting the strides again. We're back weekly. Thank you all very much for the support on all the podcasts so far. It does mean the world. Stay well, stay safe. Check out all the socials and the links in the description below. Share it around, give it some love. Subscribe to the 2 Foot Tackle Podcast YouTube channel. Speak to you guys next week. Not daily. It's going to be weird to do it and then have to wait a whole week after what we did with the World Cup. But it's good that I can really flesh out all my thoughts. An hour 12. This will be an hour 13. This podcast, which is by far longer than all my World Cup podcasts, especially when I did them daily. So there you go. I'm glad I can flesh out all my thoughts, speak about a lot of things, which is great. Thank you all very much for watching. Speak to you guys soon. Stay well, stay safe. Speak to you guys soon. Goodbye.